It doesn't matter if it's an ornamental garden or a vegetable garden or a berry patch. Humans have been gardening for the same way for hundreds of years. Strip the soil clean, strip the area clean, make a nice clean space, rip out all the weeds, till that soil down, get rid of all the rocks, plant your plants, and then humans really take over. So you do all the watering, you're going to keep tilling the soil, maybe add some compost as a top dressing or a little bit of mulch to help with the moisture retention. Put them into nice, neat rows, or organize your ornamental garden in a way that's aesthetically pleasing. And that is gardening and agriculture. But what happens if we stop doing all of that work? And if we even do the process in reverse? So we start putting back the layers of nature into it and we stop clear cutting the land in order to plant our gardens. Well, now you're looking at permaculture. The best question to ask when you're planning an edible garden or you're looking at implementing permaculture into your life is, what happens when we start to let nature take over in these areas or we go into a forest? Well, usually it's not all clear. We have the overstory layer, these huge trees, and then we have what's called the understory tree layer, which is the smaller trees that aren't getting maybe enough sun, but they're waiting to burst up if there's a gap in the canopy. Then we have the shrub layer, and we recognize shrubs. We see them everywhere. They're growing and shadowing the ground and sort of living under the canopies of the overstory layer and the understory layer. And then directly underneath of that is the herbaceous layer. And the herbaceous layer is, the plants that are coming in to fill in the gaps. We also get the vine layer. So if we look closer, we can see vines are growing up the trees and over the herbaceous layer. And then the other layer that we get is the ground cover layer. So that's all the other little plants that are sort of living beneath the herbaceous layer and the shrub layer. And for the final layer, we actually go underground, and that's the root layer. The root layer is this amazing structure that's all located underground. And you can see the big, long roots from the trees, some shorter roots with this amazing drawing that I did. I apologize, I'm not an artist. But you can see the smaller roots are coming down from the different grasses and the herbaceous layer and the shrub layer, and they're all working together to bring nutrients into the soil and pull minerals up from the parent layer of the soil, and they're tangling together. And this is when we hear about soil erosion and things like that. They're tangling together to hold that soil into place. The other big thing that they're doing is they're drinking tons of water. So as the water is falling from the sky, they're drinking tons of water. It's often available to them because that shrub layer and the herbaceous layer is really shading the ground and keeping the water in place. And so when a drought comes, they're protected. And when flooding starts to happen, we get a huge amount of rain, those tree roots and all those different roots have all combined and they're just sitting ready and waiting to soak up the excess. And so now when I look at a forest, not only do I see something that's really, really beautiful, I realize that in a very small space of the forest, there are millions of things that are happening behind the scenes. There's shade being provided and the soil's being enriched, and animals have a place to live. And, our air is getting clean. So just millions and millions and millions of things are going on behind the scene. And the best part about all of it is that it's self-sufficient. All of these layers together are making this symbiotic relationship that I can just stand back and enjoy. I don't have to do anything. Humans don't have to do anything. Our forests just exist. But if we click over to what a typical subdivision looks like, and this is our front lawn, and my lovely Chris is holding the baby and watering the lawn, we notice that there's really only one or two of the canopy layer in the shot. There's some bushes, see back in the background over there, one or two. way back in the back, you're going to see the herbaceous layer. I see another one or two of the herbaceous layer planted. And really, a little bit of the ground cover layer, so that's going to be the grass and some of the clover that's being allowed slightly to grow up. But other than that, here is a typical subdivision, and we can see that there are nothing that we could call layers, but rather there's sort of single or duplicate examples of some of the things we might see in an actual forest or in growth returning into an area that humans aren't touching. Humans, we love, if you look at this picture, to clear out the herbaceous layer, tidy it all up, allow one or two examples from nature, but otherwise we depend heavily on our lawns. Permaculture is really interesting because it relies not just on recreating sort of a natural forest effect, so with the canopy and the shrubs and bringing back the herbaceous layer, but it does so in a way that it blends it with our needs as humans, or in my case, our needs as a family. So what we were really looking for, we currently have this, very sad looking vegetable garden. So we wanted to have lots of vegetables that we could raise and fruits that we could raise with our family and be able to eat them. But we also needed a place for us to roam and play. We wanted to make sure that there was a place for the birds and the bees, and that we were protecting the soil. We also live in an area that experiences both flooding and drought, depending on the time of the year. So for us as homeowners, permaculture made a lot of sense to bring that into our backyard and do it all of this in a way. So get our edible fruits and vegetables and our drought protection and, protect the environment and create this sort of self-sustain with very little work. So an edible forest to us is planting more permanent plants that are going to help control water and keep the ground moist and build up nice organic matter, while also providing everything that we need as a family. Easy, right? Other than the fact that we have no idea how to create a forest, we're also planning to squish it all onto our typical suburban property, mainly this area in the backyard. Oh, in this picture, that's me in March of 2019, just before we had our second beautiful baby. There he is. And this was us in May of 2017 after giving birth to our first beautiful baby. Yeah. If you did the math, you'll probably realize that we had 2 under 2, and now we have a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. And did I mention that this entire edible forest idea started on a whim at a garden center clearance sale? Seriously, I filled the car with a bunch of plants for the forest layers. That was about a week ago. So now it's mid-September in southern Ontario and winter is coming, and we really need to get it together. So we're throwing ourselves into this project as fast and as vigorously as we possibly can, having 2 kids around helping us. So this is our garden journey, and we hope that you will subscribe and like this video and come along for the ride. And it is. We also picked up some Josta berries, lots of them, multi-hair base plus top coat. What I'm really just going for